and from St. Anthony's College as well. So we're getting into Beyond the Limits right now. Roland is here, and it's nice to have your guest back with us. So Roland, it's up to you. Over to you.
So, thank you very much, Alex, and good afternoon to each and everyone. My name is Roland Stewart, and welcome to Beyond the Limits. And once again, for the second time, we have Mr. Cecil Roberts, and he was the former principal of St. Anthony's College, vice principal, sorry, of St. Anthony's College, and something like, 38 years of teaching experience, right?
38 and a half years. Well, now
38
it's 40.
and a half.
Now it's 42 and a half now, but 38 and a half then when I retired.
38 and a half years. That is plenty years, Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Thanks,
plenty
man.
years,
Yeah.
Mr. Roberts.
42
So
and a half.
people, we have a lot of teaching experience, and as long as you stay tuned, you'll learn a lot. I guarantee you this morning. So, Mr. Roberts, welcome to the studio once again.
And thanks again, Roland. Quite frankly, I didn't expect to be back here so soon, but I know you didn't get through much of the questions you had in mind, and I'm thankful for being here. Last time was my first time being on air like this, so made my debut, and I mean, you made it very comfortable and relaxing for me, so thank you so much.
Well, as the saying goes, the first time for everything. Everybody have a first time, including me, including Alex. Right, Alex?
Oh, and also thanks to
Absolutely.
Alex for doing a good job of, keeping me, calm and
He's very good at that. He's very good at that. A master
Alex,
of
you
the
did
art.
well.
I charge for massages if it comes to that.
Good one, Alex. Good one.
A
Good one.
master at it. He's very, very good.
Very good.
Yeah, well, Mr. Roberts, for those people who missed the show last week, was it last week or last week?
Last Wednesday.
Yeah, last Wednesday. Right. Just a little recap. You were born in England. You grew up in Tobago. For those people who, am
for
I correct?
6.5 years, 6.5 to 7 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. You started off at the age of 21 years in St. Anthony's College
Yeah, 21
as a
years.
technical drawing teacher.
Yeah, technical vocational teacher.
Right.
Drafting to be exact.
Yeah,
General
for those
draftsmanship.
people who probably didn't listen to the program last week and they're now tuning in, you were also a youth counselor.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, informally.
Informally.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, informally.
No, you also said that you support youth camp. I remember in the interview. Am I correct? Just correct
Well, I
me if I'm
support
wrong.
you asked the question on the importance of youth camp, and I think it's something that
Mhm.
the country needs to go back to.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
I believe in that too a lot. Huh?
yeah.
Because when you had the youth camp, to me, you didn't have so much of delinquency.
Well, I mean, as time progressed and, with all the different distractions and all the exposure, that was an inevitable, but it would have helped control. And I did mention my brother who would have retired as a inspector of police. I remember at one time he taught at a youth camp as well before joining the police service, because he's also a graduate of the Tech Fox system at John S. Tollanson Technical Institute back then.
And correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I want to believe that you also said that you supported boot camps, considering the level of violence in school, etc.
Yes, and again, for clarity, I am never one to say, okay, extract a child or children from their natural home. But there are times when some things have to be done, and I think the boot camp is a more constructive approach as opposed to being incarcerated. And as we see from time to time, we have people in remand yard for 15, 20 years. And I recall once I saw this interview, part of an interview on TTT, I think it was, or TV6, they were highlighting the findings of the inspector of prisons, and videos were, aired to support that, and it's inhumane. It's inhumane for people to be in that kind of environment, and I think a boot camp would have been a viable alternative, and more so because people are presumed innocent until guilty. And from what I've been told and what I've heard, and what I think is a natural thing, if you're in a system like that for 15 years, for something maybe if you had pled guilty on it, you probably might have served a year or two. You're in there 15, 20 years. I mean, that is inhumane. So I think a boot camp will be the best thing, because apart from it's not just about incarceration, it's about rehabilitation. They come out with a skill, they come out, and all of their needs, whether emotional, psycho or whatever, all these things would be, meted more aptly in a boot camp.
Well, when come to the level of school violence over the years, sometimes you see it seems as though some people might have find that the ministry was kind of, what the word, was very slow when it come to expelling students, in terms of the expulsion of students. Students came with knives and stabbing up people and that kind of thing and whatnot and whatnot. What do you think about in terms of the expulsion of students for very violent crimes and that kind of thing?
This is something,
It's very ticklish, I want to believe.
ticklish, and I'll tell you why. I think it's genesis. Well, there's always been violence or rough play or whatever term you want to use. But I guess the advent of the cell phones and the easy access to social media, a lot of people give in to the hype. So sometimes now people started a little something that normally probably would have ended with, all right, now, breads, later for you, and a quick insult. People started firm now, so one or both parties now feel, ego bruised, and therefore they start to, work towards that. But getting back to your question with respect to the expulsion, now I know we are governed by the Education Act, right? We are governed by it. And I know the laws would have changed a bit over the years, but I know initially the hardest thing would have been to expel a child from school. And I remember the late Hugh Francis, way back in the 70s or 80s, I vaguely recall him making a statement, something that says, the hardest thing to do in Trinidad and Tobago is to expel a student or fire a public servant because of the protocols involved. And then that is just one side of it. The other humane side, or the side that where social and natural justice is concerned, that is my major concern. And sometimes to take away a child's future. And one of your colleagues, you know him, Junior Cummings, right? I know he's into education and all that. I remember many years ago, after he left St. Anthony's and he came back, we asked him to speak to our kids at an assembly and all that. And after the assembly, he came up and met with us and the principal. And he was saying, you're talking about the different issues. And he guarded us, I can't remember verbatim, but he guarded us about taking away a child's future based on something that he would have done. And especially if that child himself or herself is a victim of their environment. So yes, we need to get them to channel their energies into more productive areas. And again, boot camp or that sort of thing may come in handy. But I mean, expulsion, we've got to a point now where it has been done. So I guess, they have probably exhausted all the avenues. But I still would like to know that we do well, actually, I think what I would have heard is that although they were the kids were the one or two that I heard about that were expelled, things were put in place for them to continue their education.
Well, great.
Right? So if it comes to a point where that has to be done, make sure that there is that thing, because again we go back to Ella and L, that missing generation is going to come back and haunt us.
Because just remember, by expelling them and not treating the children, well then you're just leaving them up to the elements and to the criminals and that kind of thing. So eventually down the road, we'll end up in a worse situation.
Yes, and as somebody said, the gang leaders and what people tend to call the unsavory elements, they do their work well. They do their recruiting very well, and their incentives to them are sometimes more glorious looking to the to the kids, especially troubled kids.
Police in schools, there have been a big brouhaha about that.
I heard recently where some stats were given that says that subsequent to that taking place, that the number of incidents would have been reduced, number of suspensions and all that. So I guess it works to some extent, but my biggest concern is that when kids are exposed to police officers and the various consequences or the experiences that they will suffer from being amongst them, they become too desensitized and too early. And the greatest fear for me is when a child is desensitized too early where police is concerned. After a while, you see them as, and then you see them as being a joke or having little or no effect on them. Whereas long ago, from the time you hear, I will call the police for you, or I will bring my uncle to the police here, not anymore. And then too, I think the police too, they're into a lot of PR now because of the reputation that one or two bad apples would have helped create it for them. So with that now, everybody is on trying to be, come across as a, as a good person. And especially if you are wrong with a phone, a lot of them freeze and, and again, to get back to your question, the fact that kids become or run the risk of becoming desensitized too early in their lives, it sets them up for great danger down the road. Because after a while, police means nothing to them. And that is when sometimes it challenges the inexperienced police officer or the untrained officer or the properly well-trained officer to probably go into a gear now to try to demand his respect as he may see it, or his or her respect. And that leads to nothing in the best interest of the children or the victims down the road.
Because I recall seeing at least 1 or 2 or 3 videos in which police officers, people fighting police officers and that kind of thing already, bacchanal with police officers and that kind of thing.
And that's unfortunate.
Because remember too, this kind of generation that we're dealing with, you're dealing with a generation, those who are on the quote-unquote bad side, they do business. The level of gun and violence and that kind of thing that we're dealing with now.
But also,
even before the police came in the schools, they already have a mindset that they do business, they don't care about police, have no respect for police.
And I remember
without cutting across here, I remember every time you see a police pawn coming up the other day, I don't know policeman resting hand on me, I don't know handcuff, I don't know bar record. You understand what I'm saying? But children these days now, at least those on that side or with that kind of mindset, they do already business. They have some people. They see that as a rank.
I could
arrested and
I could talk to officer how I want. But also I recall as far back as in 1980 something when the Honorable Ramika Singh was the Minister of Education. He would have moved on after being a vice principal and principal of one of the senior comms. And incidentally, that was my old school. And I must say, I met some of the most caring teachers at that school, Mokrapo Senior Comprehensive, that they call East Mokrapo. I'm eternally grateful to that school. Mrs. Wilshire, Annette Wilshire, that woman is small in stature, but a giant. But herself, Mr. Ramika Singh, Miss Barrow, and a few other teachers, they kept the school going. But at one time when things were slipping away, our old boys, we approached the minister at his office, and we, in our inexperience and our inexperience is all I can say, and out of concern for the school, we brought up the idea to him, and he was able. I can't remember all of the details, but he was able to articulate why he doesn't think it's a good idea to have police at the school. And we were even talking about things like these things that you could, metal detectors and all that. And he was very clear on why it shouldn't be there. Again, I can't give all the details on it. And there was, in hindsight, now there's wisdom to it. People say, well, maybe if it was done X, Y, Z, A, B, C, but if a child is bent on being delinquent or being mischievous, they wouldn't bring the things to school. They'll have it outside the school. And then you might end up now having a lot more fights and brutal things happening outside the school. So it's better, not that they bring it to school, but if they come there, I think the schools have their system in place, and they know, they kind of have an idea who the students are. And then the groundwork in schools, and every effective schools, at the time they would have had informal deans. But once the teachers are, on the ground with the students, so to speak, where they have a good, relationship and rapport with them, the schools tend to find out what is going on at that informal level so that they could put things in place. So, yeah.
Okay, folks, just for now, we just take a break for the news. Don't go away. We'll come straight back to you.
This is TTT News on Talk City 91.1 FM.
All right, here's your news update to 2 p.m. right here on
Talk City 91.1. Thought-provoking conversations, bold perspectives, voices you trust. Talk City 91.1 is launching bigger, bolder, and more powerful than ever before.
Yes, Talk City 91.1
FM. A brand new era of talk radio is here. With voices you know, trust, and respect. Get ready for an all-new lineup of the very best in talk. Andy Williams, Lennox Smith, Stephen Reese, Mr. X, Derek Charbodi, Roland Stewart, Sharon Farfan, Sudath Prasad, Heavy Duty, Alex Asing, Karen Francisco, Cherry Lean Lewis, Short Pants, and more of the voices shaping the national conversation. From hard-hitting current affairs to real community issues, culture, politics, social development, and the stories that matter most to you. This is where Trinidad and Tobago comes to talk.
So I go right here on Talk City 91.1, where we're going to give you something new, something hot every day, Monday to Friday.
Listen on 91.1 FM and connect on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. New shows, new features, big giveaways. Talk City 91.1, your city, your voice.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago and the world. I'm Vermala Balkaran. Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago today. Let's take a look at what's trending this morning.
Every morning in Trinidad and Tobago, a new conversation begins. And right here, we take that conversation further, speaking with the stakeholders and voices behind the stories. From news and lifestyle to culture, health, and entertainment, we bring you the topics that matter most as you start your day. Join us weekdays, Monday to Friday at 6 a.m. Watch on TTT or join the conversation from anywhere on your smart device at TNT Today Show, Trinidad and Tobago Today. Exclusively on TTT.
Hey, up for this exciting challenge? And confident about your business? If you are, the 1020 feature is just for you. It's where you give your customers 10 reasons in 20 seconds why they should shop by you. This fun-filled feature will be captured, packaged, and aired on television and promoted on social media simultaneously. Small, medium, and large businesses call or WhatsApp 764-3378 or 313-4215. Let's feature your business 1020 with Junior K. It's affordable, effective, and fun.
Talk City 91.1. Thought-provoking conversations, bold perspectives, voices you trust. Talk City 91.1 is launching bigger, bolder, and more powerful than ever before.
Yes, Talk City 91.1 FM.
On the limits. For those people who are now joining us, we have former Vice Principal, Mr. Cecil Roberts, former Vice Principal of St. Anthony's College, I should say. Mr. Roberts, welcome back to the program once again, sir.
Thank you so much.
Just continue with the topic. The last point I want to make on that same thing you were talking about. How much blame would you lay on parents as far as school violence and misbehavior in schools are concerned?
That's a very ticklish thing, and I'll tell you why. I think we touched on it a bit last time, in that kids come from an environment where lots of it troubled, but not all of troubled. Because I've seen kids, very troubled kids that come from what we consider the uppity environment or families. But a lot of the kids come from families where the parents are just trying their best to make ends meet. And parents now, as a counselor friend of mine said, sometimes it boils down to priorities, because they're so busy trying to earn that dollar to ensure that they give that child the best chance to succeed, that sometimes they abnegate their responsibilities as a parent and their responsibility to nurture these children and inculcate values in them. And it's not totally their fault, because sometimes they have no choice. They're caught between a rock and a hard place. As we mentioned last week, sometimes it so happens that the little pittance that they get over time, sometimes it goes back, as we said, either to an attorney or to an undertaker, which is unfortunate. So to answer your question directly, it is half and half. Some parents are trying; they are really trying their best, but they don't have all the support systems around them. And I also have a friend who is very much involved in dealing with counseling kids and having been in institutions where kids are kept, whether they're abandoned by parents or they take them from the parents. And he and I share the same view, and that is, like, for example, well, I shouldn't even call a name, but I mean Children Authority. When I heard of the brouhaha that came up the other day with the funds to be accounted for and all that, and I heard the amount of millions, there was something on that, so I don't have the details, but just to say that a lot of millions are spent, hundreds of millions, probably as an annual budget. And I'm saying, if you were to check the population of those institutions, if a significant portion of those funds, let's say 50%, were spent now on supporting parents to keep the kids at home, where they will be brought up under the guidance of the parents. So okay, so a parent has to go out and work all these hours. They say, okay, let me support this parent. It become almost as some people call it a social system, but where so they spend time to stay home and nurture their children, rather than you take them, you put them in these institutions. And how many success stories you hear about them? I was heartened a couple of years ago. I think it was 2011. I was on vacation and hearing this program, and there was this guy that came out. He was in YTC, and while he was there, he did his O levels and I think Cape, and I think he was accepted to come into UE. And then about last year or so, again, well, I listened to the radio. I spent a lot of time listening to the radio, and there was this guy who came out, but while he was there, he did a lot of studies. He wrote books, and he's now trying to mentor the kids in there. But again, it comes back to what I said last week. We could either do preventative maintenance or catastrophic maintenance. And I think even the catastrophic maintenance is failing. So we need to do more on the preventative. Let's come together and support parents so we could keep the kids out of these places, because they come out very, very, the accomplishments are good when you hear them, but they, it's school amount in comparison to the actual inmate population. And I apologize for the term inmate, for the population of kids that are there, and something has to be done differently because it hasn't been working.
So based on what you're being saying, listening to you, would you say what I could be gleaning from what you were saying? You correct me if I'm wrong or right, but don't you think that is also attributed to the breaking down of the extended family? Because long time, even parents were busy, the mother or the father busy or doing 2 and 3 jobs or whatever the case may be. You had the aunts, the uncles, all of these kind of people in the extended family who will look after you. They'll throw an eye on you. But now everybody is on material things. Everybody busy. You have to pay everybody because nobody really doing anything for free now. Good. And sometimes the parents and they may not have the kind of money to pay the aunt, to pay the uncle to look after. Don't you think so?
You're very correct. I think last week we touched on that too, about the importance of the extended family that is no longer there. And then I think to support my point on it, look at the kids who are given trouble, and look at their homes, and look at the infrastructure they have in terms of extended, very little. And look at the different cultures who, yes, they have problems, but not as much as a particular culture. Why? Because they still have the auntie, the granny, the nana, the nanny. Like when I grew up as I said, when I left England and I was in Tobago for a while, because as I said, my mom died, my father was up there still, I came down. And my granny, but at the home it wasn't unusual to see so many people in the home who are, we call them auntie and cousin and thing now. Or back then, because people went on their ambitions, and my grandmother Tani, as they used to call it in the village, would help take care of them. And then if it's not her, it's Miss Glenda next door, Miss Emblyn, Miss Emblyn, and all these different people, will help. And if we get back more of that, it will help. And not But now, as I say, things have gone so far that sometimes even in some homes where that exists, the grandparents, they literally struggle on their own, and then sometimes the kids are left with them when it's too late. And they now become, well, I want it, for the want of a better term, victims of those same kids because they, they ill treat them for the want of a better term. So, but yes, that extended family that has been lost, and I don't know. As they say, the cart has bolted. The horse has bolted.
Has bolted from there, they call it.
Yeah, from the stable. So I don't know how to pull that back. But yeah. So in other words, just it has to be a multifaceted approach. And I think this is where it offers the various or respective governments to put together a think tank, and you're talking about not just the educators or the technocrats, but you also have to have people from the community, and people who have proven themselves over time, and they sit down and they come up with an approach that will be unique to Trinidad and Tobago. And it doesn't mean that we can't borrow something that we see working outside, but then tweak it now to suit us. Or that could be part of the preventative aspect of
hairstyles in schools. That was a big issue.
Yeah. Yes.
What do you think about that? Because I remember many years ago, the neighbor, she had a son attending junior sec, Mokorapa junior sec to be exact. And what the teacher was explaining, because she went in the school, because at that time, Cane Road, do you remember, Alex, when this guy, the one who went to jail now, R. Kelly, you remember at the time R. Kelly and them,
that was
like Cane Road and that kind of thing.
That was a fashion at the time, yeah.
Cane Road, everybody had Cane Road. And I remember her son was attending Mokorapa junior sec. And they sent for the mother. And when the mother went in school, she was kind of upset her. But after when the teacher explained to her, she said, listen, it's not like we have anything per se against the hairstyle per se.
Right.
But what you had explaining to her, and she understood, she went in vexer. But by the time she came back out, she made the son take out all the plots. Because the teacher was trying to explain to her, it's not so much the hairstyle in and of itself. But you see, if the children mentality, because what their thing is on the style. So they really come into school for style. And they're not really coming to school for work.
Yeah, to learn.
Their emphasis is on the hairstyle. What is your response to that?
My views on that, boy, it is so varied. And if my memory serves me right, I remember our present honorable Prime Minister, when she probably was the Minister of Education at the time. And there was a situation that came to the fore where two kids went to school and their hair braided, and the school had sent them home. Something I don't have the exact details, but I know it caused a big brouhaha. And I think the minister put her foot down and said no, they cannot be discriminated against. So that was a step in the right direction.
I agree.
But to get back to to what you would have mentioned about R. Kelly. They have a lot of artists who have all different styles, and as you rightfully said, a lot of the kids, they follow the style not for just the fashionable thing, but sometimes it brings out a kind of mentality and personality in them. So I have one at R. Kelly, I'll be cool. I have one of an artist who represent a kind of rebellious nature. So they tend to develop that persona, and that's part of it. But any of my students, former students and senators listening, boy, they must be listening, trying to hear what Mr. was going to say. Because at my school, being the dean, I was the person who was responsible for, getting students to conform. Not that I was the only person, but I'm the one that they normally would send the kids to when they violated that. So we have a lot of dean like Mrs. Murray and Mr. Kalu, Mr. Mack, and a few others.
Miss Murray was a dean?
Yeah, Mrs. Murray. She was a vice principal as well. But her heart is in the right place, so she gave up the vice principalship to go back down to teach her classes.
Oh, so she was a vice principal at one time?
Yeah,
I wasn't aware of that.
As a matter of fact, if she had stayed as vice principal, I may never become vice principal. But her heart was, she felt that she could have made a greater contribution by being a teacher. So get back to your point. So what would have happened then, you'd find that what I did, at first I just did it because that was my job. And then after a while, I sat back and I said, well, listen, there has to be a better way. And then I started thinking, and I realized that they send them to me because I will call the parent and I say, Mom, listen to me. I will never want to be the one to tell you how to bring up a child and how to have his hair, because that's part of his identity. but we are in a system where the system is as strong as its weakest link. And if in the interest of getting all the students to be to conform to uniformity, which just doesn't come down to just your clothes and your footwear and all that, if that is part of it, please, I'm asking you to cooperate with us. And then I recall, and then it bothered me one day. Now I think the Holy Ghost fathers probably wouldn't like this, but I recall I keep getting these guys over and over and over and over, trying with them, and I recall one morning I went on assembly. The principal wasn't there, and I took the assembly, and I said, guys, I haven't discussed this with the board. I haven't discussed this with the principal. I'm going out on a limb. So if the principal, based on what the board requires, come back and say otherwise, don't be angry with him. He's doing his job as I was doing. I'm saying to you, I understand what you're going through. So all I'm asking you, and I say it is unfair, because depending on your ethnicity, you have long hair. But because of how it is, it doesn't come across as long as, if you're Afro and, and that sort of thing. I say, so here to do. I'm asking for us to go in the middle. As of today, I, Mr. Robertson, mind you, not St. Anthony's College, I'm willing to go, put my neck out for you all, but I want your support. I am asking you, I'm allowing you to braid your hair, simple braids, simple cane row or corn row, and I'm good with that. And I'm willing to fight any battle for you all. When the principal came, the next day I went to him, I said, sir, you know what? I did so and so. I know how you may feel about it. Feel free to do what you have to do, but I felt that's what I had to do. And he supported me. But kids, how some of them are, so some of them will come at it decent, And by the time 10 o'clock, so the same cane one corner, they open out now. And they'll go back to, but to answer your question directly, I believe in kids being allowed to, develop and, bring out their own identity. And so the hairstyle, I'm open to it. People might say that's the easy way out because you're no longer in the system. But it has to be welcomed, because sometimes you see kids where they hear. I remember one time I spoke to a kid and I said, well, last year you come here. So about 6 weeks ago, I said, okay, when last year wash it? So me, I don't wash my hair. So when you do things now where it coming out and you're sitting next to other students and you're now putting their hygiene, your hygiene now is putting their health at risk is an issue. So hence the reason why we want them to toe the line to some extent. And I said, listen to me, you could have your long hair, toe the line during the week. On the weekend, you're on, on platter hair, you go have a good time, but make sure and get it done back on Monday, and then they'll come and see them. So, well, I did what you said, but my sister wasn't around to, when I came home Sunday evening, it was too late, and my sister wasn't there, my mother wasn't there to braid it. I said, well, then you have to make a choice. If you know that can't be done, then don't do that. But to answer your question, it is unfortunate, but sometimes it is necessary, because some kids go to the extreme, and it is a hygiene risk to the people around them. And I hope people don't take it the wrong way, but I've seen it.
Yeah, but I like what the ministry did, though. The ministry gave like guidelines as to certain kind of styles that they would allow in terms of the plaits, the cane row, whatever the thing might be.
I don't know if that was done subsequent to me leaving, because I think back then the only guideline I remember is that you can have your hair grow your hair to 1 inch.
It was subsequent to things.
Some ethnicities their hair, it will look flat because they probably wet it up with gel, but normally when you do that,
not so Alex. That would be subsequent. That would be what, about 4 years ago?
Oh my gosh!
I left about 4 years.
No, that was longer than
when
that.
the ministry did give out like guidelines.
Yeah, I remember those
guidelines had to do with the
but I can't remember exactly when it was.
I really can't say.
That was some time ago, huh?
Yeah, that part I talk about.
Further back.
Yeah, way back, but they spoke basically to the length of it, and the guideline was 1 inch long, which in itself wasn't, looking back at it, it wasn't realistic.
All right, well, moving on now to the disability aspect that St. Anthony's College was a big part of. Now, I being the first disabled person who attended St. Anthony's College, you want to give me probably, I would like to know, it would be nice for me to know, what would have been the kind of discussions that I would not be privy to, and the kind of hurdles administratively that you all would have had to have gone through in order to get me through the various forms and the exams and that kind of thing. You being a man in the office, I wasn't privy to
But
certain
at the time when
discussions.
you were there, probably I'm just a teacher. We'd have had meetings and all that. But I must start off by saying, kudos to you because I mean, as I said some time ago, when I first saw you, you were this adamant and this strong. I mean,
Yeah,
your
big,
future was anything that you wanted.
yeah, big
And
shopping
then, lo
guy.
and behold, you came and you became disabled, and you came at a point in time where you started to enjoy life. So you started to see the goodness in life, and then all of a sudden, a lot of people would have taken some decisions that wouldn't have been in their best interest, and they probably would have been dead and all that. So I say kudos to you because your spirit and your strength, you have an indomitable spirit, and that is what has you where you are. But to answer your question, where St. Anthony is concerned, back then, I'm not sure, being just a teacher then, I'm not sure in terms of the policies that they would have had for, inclusivity in education. But I know back then we had little or no, well, I had no knowledge about it really. The school have tried their best to assist you, and we didn't even have ramps for you back then. But I think what worked for you, one, was your independence. And then two, you had some friends who were there for you. So you
Very good friends.
So you never really was in need. So
Of course.
So you didn't really push us to do it. But I know what would have been a need for somebody to write, like what they call the amensures, to do for your exam, to scribe for you, or the scribe. So that, and I think you probably didn't benefit as much the first time, but I think subsequently you went up and did the exams and you got it. But what I can tell you, more so in more recent times, the ministry in their wisdom now, depending on your disability, and sometimes it may not be physical alone, it may be some sort of something that's going on with you, and I think CXC has a policy. Once you've reached the threshold for whatever is expected or whatever is required, you get, I think it's 15 minutes extra for every hour in the exam. So if it's a 3-hour exam, you have 45 minutes extra. Because I mean, the fact that you have to speak so you can read the question, you know your answer, and you have to now relate it to me, who will scribe for you. That takes some time and some loss of time for you. So they give you that time on that.
You will see, as I said, St. Anthony's was really the school breaking the barriers, because that really started with me. Because the first time
well, from our point of view, we don't know if other schools had it, because I mean, they probably might have had other disabilities like visually impaired and that sort
because what really happened is that what I could tell you, I remember CXC didn't know how to deal with me, right? CXC, at first they said that I'll have to do it verbally, right? I remember later Mr. Willis show and that kind of thing, and Paul Borley and that, God rest their soul. So they said, that, yo, they didn't really know how to deal with me. I'll have to do it verbally. And we said, well, all right, we'll get people probably to do the writing, and I will tell them all, like for the SBAs and that kind of thing. And then last minute, about two weeks before I was supposed to give up the SBAs, then they sent back now and said, well, listen, I'll have to get people to do the writing. So, like, for example, for history, when most people had, I think was 8 SBAs, 10 SBAs in 8 weeks or something like that. By the time they sent back and say that, I only had 2 weeks to do the 10 SBAs. I mean, thanks to Brent Miller, my good partner from Bones Road, the Miller brothers, Brent and Roger Miller.
Okay.
Brent Miller was the man who was doing history and all in Spanish class. Well, all the time would be revising it. People were revising. So sometimes in Spanish class, then we need back a Spanish class, and Brent taking down notes and blah, 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 all in the library. And the first time I've ever done that, open up 4 or 5 books, read 2 paragraphs from this 2 paragraphs. Don't ask me what did it. Sometimes necessity will make you do things. I had like about 5 books open them, read 2 books here, 2 paragraphs here, 2 paragraphs here, a paragraph here, and I related to him at the same time. And I don't know why he was synthesizing all the information. It's just I know I had like 2 weeks instead of 10 weeks to do, instead of 8 weeks to do the 10 SBAs, and I was just doing it, bro.
But then again, you had a good support structure. You had Mr. Wilshire to guide you. You have your friends, because they would have been putting themselves out. They probably
thank
would have
God.
had their own SBS to finish up, So
thank God.
And then because you are a person, you don't sit back. You don't give up.
And then the first time I did exams, they didn't give me any extra minutes.
Yeah, because that time it wasn't a normal thing.
Right, but I remember the second time, because I remember I had to repeat because I was missing so much of school. Miss Murray.
I think you're away from school for like 2 years.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, after the
accident,
yeah.
I came back out. But then remember too, that even after I came back out, I still missed a lot of school because we were transported a
Yeah,
problem.
because you
So sometimes I
staying
missed like 2 weeks.
in St. James there in the back of the
Different people dropped me to school, members of the Defense Force. Thanks to like Gita and Gomez and all these people. They dropped me for 6 months. Right? The first person who started drop me was Joseph Derby.
Okay.
I mean, wherever he is, thank God for him. Right?
And you mentioned there's some other teacher who used to help you as well, who used to pick you up sometime or drop you back from the school.
A lot of
You called a
teachers.
few of them. I think you even said Mrs.
Aboard,
Murray's husband as well at one time.
Quailan Aboard,
Quailan
Marquez,
Aboard, yeah,
Miss Marquez, God bless his soul, from she lives Westmoreland. She's a teacher in St. Anthony's College too.
Actually, she lives in St. Anthony's Drive, yeah.
Yeah,
Bless her soul.
I mean, Quailan was an English teacher. She used to
Yeah.
drop me to a lot of the time.
Yeah, she passed a couple years ago, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Beautiful soul,
She and her husband
beautiful
have
soul.
aboard.
Yeah.
Remember the people who navigate the world, circumnavigate
Yeah,
the
yeah.
world?
Yeah.
Beautiful people, though.
Yeah, beautiful souls.
Beautiful people, all these
I
kind of
spoke with her.
people.
I was blessed to remember to call her. I can't remember what was the situation, and we spoke probably about 6 months before she passed. But I mean, 6 months is a long time, but in comparison to when last I'd spoken to her before that, which might have been 15, 20 years, I felt blessed. And I mean, she remembered me, she remembered the school, and she spoke highly of what the school meant to her in terms of having allowed her to do things to help people. So bless her soul, yeah.
Yeah, yes, and I mean all these people were actually beautiful people. I remember even when I had to take my exam, I remember Gary Mark.
Yes.
He came just to make sure that but I was coming from home. Is after I came back, then the nurses told me, they said, Roland, your teacher came to make sure that you didn't miss the exam.
Bless his soul, because he passed as
Bless his soul.
well, and that is who he
Beautiful
was. He was on the ground. He was there for the students. He was he's a giant.
You see? So you see,
giant,
listeners, I just want all you to know, and what all you hearing this morning, it's not the normal bacchanal thing. It's the positive side of teaching and teachers. And I just want all you to know that there are teachers who go beyond the duty to do a lot of great things for students. And this is what you're hearing this morning. It's not just, somebody interfere with some school girl and somebody coming before the court and all them kind of thing. This morning, total positivity, right? And St. Anthony's School is one of the schools that really set the ball rolling with that. There are many other schools, but I could vouch for St. Anthony because that is the school that I attended. Good. And I have the former vice principal here, Mr. Cecil Roberts, for those people who are now joining us. Here actually to enlighten us on various issues relating to education, and he can support what I'm saying.
But a quick thing on that. Subsequent to you, there's a guy called Andre. What's Andre last name?
Yeah.
Andre.
I know him.
Yeah, well known. Then there was this guy. Andre was all about the school, and our school was such a beautiful community.
Andre Serret, that's the guy.
And I recall students lifting that boy up to school. He would always use our teachers' facility, and those guys will lift him up the staircase, bring him, take him to the bathroom, put him on his seat and everything, wait with him when he finished, whatever. I mean, that's that. Then there's this guy called Paul Charles. He has cerebral palsy. I remember I was the person for one of his subjects. I think it was math, where I was his amanuensis, where I would be scribing for him. And then quite recently I saw a video, Mr. Geyer, the current acting principal, with this gentleman who is there. So I spoke with him this morning in anticipation of your question, and he said that, they have ramps to the lower floor. So the young man, I don't want to give his name, well, actually, I didn't ask it intentionally.
He's the Douglas guy.
Right? And he mentioned that, they have the ramps for him. He said their challenge now is to get the support, I guess, financially and otherwise. So this is
one of the issues
anybody
here.
who's out there listening, former students, and you have quite a few of them.
No, but
doing
this is one of the things that I want to mention. I'm glad you bring it up.
Yeah, because
I find, right, when it comes to this kind of thing, we including disabled people, I find that the government's supposed to support that. I mean, that's how they call it. I mean, because they're already doing so much. Good. So if they install ramps and these kind of things, you understand what I'm saying? Because the government already building schools, and they're not building schools to cater for people with disabilities, which is their function. So if you find schools trying to retrofit these schools and with ramps and that kind of thing, well then government throw away money. I mean, regardless of who political party in power, Yeah, and they spend money, millions of dollars on all kind of thing. Probably what commission inquiries. Most of them nothing to ever come out of it.
Well,
Big
I don't
time
care to talk
lawyers.
about that, but what I can say, because a good example is like, for example, when you spoke about what you would have done, your advocacy for where you are to get the lift
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
Pokerite, just at the
walkovers and the
the
ramps
walkover
and, thing
and that
Pocorit
sort of
and
thing.
by
So
Westmore.
we gotta get there, but again, it's advocacy. If the right people advocate for it, and because you are so outspoken, you'd have gotten things a lot I wouldn't say easier, but faster. And again, so like for example, back to the question why these things didn't exist in the past. Because think about it, long ago, once a child had any sort of a incapacity, whether it is hearing impaired, whether Down syndrome, whatever, the parents tend to hide them at home. They would stay at home.
Yes.
I realized on my street a guy died recently. He'd have been 40 something. And it's only when my wife told me about a year or two ago that he's been living there all his life because he has some sort of a mental challenge. Well, he died recently. But I'm saying, not that I'm up against the parents, but I'm saying it wasn't the norm to come out and speak about these things. So I think in time it's just for people like yourself and the institutions you are aligned with to come now and get other people to advocate on your behalf. So back to the quick question, what I can say for St. Anthony's College, they need a lift because right now they have nothing to get to the top floor. So I guess the students will have to lift them, or what we'd have done in the past sometimes is confine the classes to the ground floor. But sometimes it is not logistically, it's not the easiest thing to achieve. But they need a lift and ramp, but those things will cost some, will take some money.
But talking about the ground floor, I remember a woman called me this morning. She has a son attending Tranquility Primary School, and she's also
That's a
trying
new
to
school.
get
That's the new incarnation of the school. That's the new one opposite the Lapro Cemetery.
Yeah,
that's
correct.
a recently built school, if I'm not mistaken.
But I remember years ago I was there, one of the guys, and another thing that I transferred from St. Anthony's College, because that time I had a guy from Dennis Street in Belmont. He was attending the school that could be like about 8-9
Our
years
school
ago.
or Tranquil?
No, Tranquility Primary School. And what I'm saying is they're able to use that knowledge because for 3 years they were lifting him up and down the steps. Good.
Which was the norm then. Yeah.
And when it came to my attention, I was able to use the same thing that you all did in St. Anthony's College. Remember, they left the class on the ground floor.
Yeah.
Good. And a lot of the teachers would come in to me.
Right.
So when it was brought to my attention that they were lifting this guy every day up to the 3rd floor and bringing him down, I was able to go and liaise with the vice principal at the time and explain to the vice principal, well, listen, but the acting principal at the time, I think he's still there, they leave the class on the ground floor. Right? All they do now is just switch the teachers.
Right.
You see?
And if it's a primary school, sometimes you tend to have like
It's easier because
one
just
main
one
teacher for the majority
Yeah,
of the
just
day.
one
But when you're in
teacher.
a secondary school,
You're different teachers.
depending on your subject choices, it could be 4, 5, 6 different teachers per day. So yeah.
And what I'm saying is that you all were still able to make it work. And that same knowledge are able to go down there.
Because you, as I said, it came down to you advocated for yourself. Hey, I tell you, when I tell you I'm proud of you, I'm not joking about that. You stood up for yourself. You never engage in this kind of pity party kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anybody who just hearing about you or hearing your voice or whatever without seeing you would never believe that you were suffering from a disability because you spoke very confidently and you stood up for yourself. So the chances of people not hearing you would have been slim, but it's to get more people like that. So you have to use your position and your connections to empower people in that situation to be like you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm trying my best to do that. But you see, a lot of people don't even know the distance teachers go. Because let me tell you something, I think. This gentleman here, including Mr. Wilshaw, they are the ones used to pay for Dr. Garth Allen to teach me economics. Because when I wanted to do A-levels, St. Anthony's didn't have any A-levels yet. As a matter of fact, the discussion came out of that. I remember Mr. Wilshaw came to me and he said, Roland, the discussion we had in school, he said, if that we don't have any A-level classes in St. Anthony's, he said, but here what happens? Something good will come out of that. Because of this discussion that came up with you, the St. Anthony's College now is now considering having A-level classes. And that is how he came and he told me, you never told me that. Good. That he said, Roland, you up. Then I spoke to Cecil, and Cecil and I make up in mind that we'll pay half the fee to pay Dr. Garth Allen to come and teach you economics. I just want to publicly tell you thanks for that.
But Roland, the truth be told, if you didn't mention that to me the other day, because
that
back
was
then
so long.
I was probably 22.
It was so long.
The memory of it was just out. So if you hadn't mentioned that, but again, it goes back to who Mr. Wilshire is and the people. I mean, I'm surprised how many students I've encountered between his passing and last week, and they say, "Sir, I heard Mr. Wilshire think, when's the funeral?" And I had to tell them, I said, "Well, his homegoing service would have been last week Wednesday, and I was here. It was in the morning, so I couldn't."
Absolutely beautiful guy. Absolutely beautiful guy.
Beautiful soul.
These are the nice things that teachers
Misunderstood
do.
him. Misunderstood. Mr. Wilshire was misunderstood him, but he was a beautiful soul.
Misunderstood how? Because I can't understand Mr. Can we tell you something? Mr. Wilshire,
He's a bit eccentric. He's a bit eccentric.
Yeah, slightly.
And people,
slightly.
people who, sorry to cut you, but people who brought up in a particular system where you conform and you. Mr. Wilshire wasn't like that, because he would have shared some story with me in the days when he used to study abroad. He was something else.
You believe, Alex, this man used to leave all the time because he was, after my father, I could have seen Mr. Wilshire. And he used to leave and come down Carnage, quite down Carnage, ever so often. I mean, it's because of him, because if you realize I'm very good at world history, especially European history. Yeah. And it's because of him. He's the man who said to me, Sir Roland, after doing so well in Caribbean history, he said, Roland, I'll advise you to learn European history. He said, because it will open your mind to so much of things. And so said, so done. And all the books he bought from England, because he's a lecturer in England and those kind of places.
UWI and all these places.
All the books and things, most of the books is what I had.
Okay.
You see? So like the mainstream of
And
civilization and the industrialization of Europe, the history of England, the history of Ireland, the history of Germany, all these kind of things. If Mr. Wilshire books, I can afford those kind of books. Yeah. And then you wouldn't get in those kind of books long here either.
So he tried to get me involved in the history too, but I took a crack at the exam. I didn't do well because I really wasn't into it as I ought to have been, and I just never bothered. And he recognized that my plate was full, being young and here, there, and everywhere. So, but there are times when I sit and I look back and say that is something I probably should have followed up, because through him I think I even went on to. I started doing things like econ, politics, and some other thing with elders way back when, through his guidance and his encouragement. So I would say he's a blessed soul, and he doesn't look for
returns
and for aggrandizement and that sort of thing. No, he just does everything quite. That's why I tell you that thing. And I think he probably may have given me a little more credit than I deserve with that thing, because I think eventually he probably would have done most of it. Because, he probably would have had a discussion. I probably might have contributed a couple of times and then get caught up in whatever and forgot about it. But I tell you, it is very, very vague in my mind. But he's that kind of person.
All right, just about two more questions. Because as you're trying to wrap it up, we're almost approaching 22. Is there any teachers in terms of the confidence of the teachers in schools? Any one of them have any students, for those who might be wondering, that attended the school, the teachers of the school? In terms of the confidence the teachers had in the school?
Yeah, well, I must say, over the years at St. Anthony's, we've been blessed with a beautiful cadre of teachers. We have some beautiful, really beautiful people, right? Your question, and it is a good one, simply because there's no better way of showing confidence in the school you're at than to have your kids come there. Mrs. Murray, her 2 kids went there. Mrs. Akbar, her son or sons went there. My 2 boys went there.
All right.
My nephews, I have 4 nephews who went to St. Anthony's.
Great.
And about 2 or 3 cousins. Coming down to the end, Mrs. Bardui, back then she would have been, she probably wouldn't have been there when you were there. Miss Boynes Bardui, her son went there. And, over time, people, like a teacher recently, her grandson was there. Some people have their cousins, their nephews. So, yes, and the truth be told, they've been doing very well. They've been doing very well, I must say. And again, I take this opportunity to say how proud, well, first to begin, how privileged I feel having been brought to St. Anthony's by God to teach. And I always give kudos to Mr. Bowley, because back then, as I said, I was young and impulsive and whatever. And Mr. Bowley, in his wisdom, there's a program called, that place on the Beatum.
Yeah.
The Catholic place there.
What name of the place?
And
Pantin was in charge of that place.
That's Father George Pantin was in charge of. And he said...
Feel.
Well, no, Field is in Laventil, but there was a...
The school.
Yeah, the school. And they had
Not Suval, right?
Yeah, Suval.
Suval, okay.
So he sent me that. So every Thursday, like he checked my timetable and it just coincided with what they were having that time. And it was more like life skills. And every Thursday, I had permission to leave school to go to this program. It's only over time in talking to somebody. And then I realized he was telling me, hey, Cecil, you need to go up a little bit. And therefore, so these are the programs, 2 life skill programs that I think schools need to have as well, yeah. But our St. Anthony students are doing very well out there, all over the diaspora.
Yeah, well, just to end the program, I just want to say that people like you, I want to say plenty thanks to you, much thanks to you, because people like you and Grosvenor and that kind of thing, you all were more, God rest his soul.
Good big one to everybody.
Yeah, good one.
Literally.
You too. Good. I want to say that your personality and people like Grosvenor personality, what endeared you all to us, if that you all weren't just like, you all were a friend, you all were a brother, in your case, you might be like a father, because you were like almost like us in terms of just a little 5-6 years. But the thing is,
it's about 3 years different to some of the students.
You see, but the thing is, we could have still come and make like a little joke with you. So you're more like a brother to us now.
Yeah, the Brisbans and the Bazi, Roger Mohammed and Bodyguard, all these guys were good friends of mine. They would come to, I remember one time my birthday, not to cut you, my birthday, and fellas come upstairs, Miss I used to have some nice Chinese lunch on a Friday, and that year was a Friday, and them fellas come upstairs with a nice lunch to me, boy. Happy birthday, sir, So as much as we gave, it was easy for us to do it because we got it back in return without looking for it, and we got it back. And again, I always feel privileged that God, would have ordained me or blessed me to go there. And I tried leaving, as I said, after 15 years, and within a year I was back there.
All right, thank you very much, man. All right, folks, thanks very much we have come to the end of the program. Much thanks to you, Mr. Alex Singh, and thanks to you, Mr. Roberts, again, for coming a second time to shed some light on the topic of education. And for everybody else, do have a good afternoon.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
Is your business experiencing the following symptoms? Not enough customers,